我叫曹晴，他是我的先生鲍南迪，然后我们的宠物狗狗叫红豆，然后它是一个2岁的克隆犬。
就是在中文里面，兜兜转转就是 cycle 的意思，就是 life cycle 一个循环。它的前一只叫兜兜，叫转转。我计划再做一只的话，又叫兜兜；再做一只又叫转转，所以就是这样。
果汁是一个小流浪狗，那么从11个月开始就拍摄电影，到现在它已经13岁了。但是因为拍摄的时候，实际上会有很多这个场景，然后是有冲突的啊，所以动物的压力是比较大的，所以我们就克隆了啊，希望小果汁能分担大果汁的一些工作。
Although we have like about 6 dogs in our home, but Gogo is my mom's favorite, so, and also my favorite, so we choose to clone him, also name as Gogo.
当时我们做克隆是花了38万人民币，其实，我觉得对于一个生命来说，我觉得还是很值当的。
Hello。
我咬的吧？
哦。
我等，我会考虑会再克隆，
就是想把它一直去延续下去。
没有再考虑给他们再做克隆。其实我更多的就是有很多流浪动物，我们可以领养。
如果可以的话，我更希望把克隆技术用于前者，就是用于这个修复和延续。但是产生一个全新的人类的个体呢，目前我的答案是 no。
If you've asked me what animal I would like to bring back from extinction, I would ask first what it costs and if the resources we would need for that is relevant for the advantage we have by bringing this animal back. I think it is really important that this decision to apply emerging technology should be on many shoulders. No dictatorship by one person. It needs really a wide consensus to go this way.
Thomas Hildebrandt is part of a team of veterinarians and researchers using state-of-the-art science to try to keep the northern white rhino from extinction.
This is our baby. And realistically, the northern white rhino is extinct. There are only 2 infertile females left, so they can't rescue themselves anymore. Hundreds or 1,000 other species are dependent on the northern white rhinos. And therefore, the entire ecosystem gets instable, maybe can collapse. And that is a really important aspect. And therefore, it's not a scientific exercise we try to do. We actually want to bring back a very important, high hierarchical animal in a very complex ecosystem. Hugo. Okay. So we got a patient from our partner, which is a rescue camp. And this facility has a caiman. So it doesn't eat like it normally eats, and it has also some indication of pain. My dream to be a vet started when I was 6. 4 stones. I grew up in East Germany, and my political position went along with political decision makers. So I was banned from university for 5 years. I worked in a dairy farm, milking cows, and then things changed completely. I was actually selected by this institution, just now called Leibniz Institute for Zoo and Wildlife Research. And since then I'm here and trying to help endangered species to survive. The foreign bodies actually don't do really harm right now. That's good, because if they stuck in a small intestine, then it's a life-threatening situation. The caiman is fully awake, and you hear that he is not so happy, because anesthesia of reptiles is not so easy. If you work with rhinos or elephants, then we always have to do full anesthesia. Actually, Tim, youngest colleague in our team, he is actually very brave to hold this guy.
Well, he's quite strong. You wouldn't.
Yeah. There's always a little bit danger in the job we do. However, it is so exciting and it's so satisfying. I want not to do anything else.
This bull, it's a southern white rhino bull, was actually one of my first rhino interaction. It had to be euthanized, and I used the opportunity to open it up and check the male reproductive organs, because after that I developed an electroejaculation probe, which has a much better shaped design to collect semen. And since then we have done, I think, nearly 500 semen collection in different rhino species, and also the northern white rhinos.
So collecting sperm and processing sperm is actually the easiest part. To collect eggs is really, really challenging. And for a long time, we didn't touch this field. Many people told us, let them die in dignity, and you can't do anything anymore. It will be only experimentation. But as humankind, we brought them to the brink of extinction. And we as scientists, we have the solution to change that.
Currently, there is 0.0000 mammoths living in this environment. That's the current state. I don't need one mammoth, I need like herd, many herds. And if we want to establish an ecosystem, we need populations that have kind of experience in living in the Arctic. And that's why it will be nice to have mammoths, but realistically now I think we will have to settle with small animals.
He's pretty pragmatic like that. He's like, I'm just gonna do this how I can. I'm not gonna wait for someone to bring me a mammoth. I'm gonna get bison, I'm gonna get horses, like camels, like whatever I can get, yaks. Like anything that like I can get my hands on and take to the Arctic that will eat grass, have an impact on the ecosystem.
I think right now our main focus will be on two main species, which is bison, primarily steppe bison, and muskox. So these are two creatures we think the most adaptable and the most capable of converting the landscape.
And the species matter too, because horses were always pretty easy for them to get, but they really needed bison. Like bison were, during the Ice Age, like after mammoths, they were kind of this key species. And today too, they're a lot tougher than horses. They have a bigger ecological impact.
father was the founder of the research station in the high Arctic, and he was always, all his life was doing science, and I was brought here to the Arctic when I was 2. So for boys, Arctic is a great place. I was going to the local school, but all my days I was going fishing, hiking, setting fires, camping, doing all the stuff the boys like to do.
I heard the world stand still, buttoned up and sold a pill, vacuum-packed Cadillac. I want my cheap thrill.
Что случилось? Топливно?
Everyone's a born winner.
And from there was a good option to enter very prestigious Russian university. And I think when I was already in the first year of university, my dad came to Novosibirsk and we met, and he said, "Oh, maybe you want to return back to the Arctic after you're done studying." And since I think there was pretty much 2 options: say they become a programmer, and I didn't want that. So I said, yeah, sure, why not? Since that, I was living and working here.
Thunderstorms and daffodils, the world spins overkill. I can see the future dying over the hill.
Ну и что ты вот копытом машешь? Балбес. Привет, привет. Привет, привет. Молодец, молодец, помогаешь. Наверное, думаешь, что ты обозначаешь, какой ты страшный, но на самом деле ты мне сено помогаешь чистить. За что тебе благодарность.
It was biggest problem for me. Who will follow this work? And I prepare my son, especially. I push my son so much strong, go outside. Finally, fortunately, our planet is like ball. And he moved so far, and finally back to beginning. It's idea of Pleistocene Park.
I sold my dreams today. Take my hand and walk this way. Everyone's a born winner. I heard you say.
In 2011, it was the first time when I decided to make my own expedition. The idea was to bring elks from the central part of Russia, and for that I went to Moscow, bought a brand new truck. Before that I never drove a truck, and so I just started going through entire Russia with this truck, and then we arranged these 6 elks, put them in the back of this truck, and I started going here. Spring was early and the winter road was collapsing, and it was super complicated. I was already way too tired. I was driving too many hours every day because I needed to hurry up. I finally made it, but I was almost literally insane after I came here because I had to work way beyond my physical limits to make it happen. That was like the most intense expedition for me. Actually, the fact that I achieved was the one which shaped me as a person very, very much so, and that it's proved that I can do anything. But of course, there is also certain addiction to some adrenaline, and once you went to some crazy expedition and get out of it, next time you think, okay, that was fine. Now we can do something more complex than that and more complicated, dangerous, and you're getting used to that. Over the last 13 years, I became way more professional and skilled in that. I know how to drive trucks well now. I know what cages should be made, how the cage with animals should look like, how exactly to easily open, how many ventilation, what area, what spaces. For example, this year we drove the same road with the bison. there is like literally nothing to talk about. Like I don't remember the trip because it was like nothing happened. Сейчас будут адаптироваться к новым местам. Вот, теперь это новый дом. Будем надеяться, что приживут и будут плодиться. Народ вроде счастлив, доволен. Мы тоже. Поэтому будем праздновать сегодня. Ура! Now, at the moment, I'm having 3 expeditions ongoing with animals right now. So today, my 16 camels are being picked up with the containers and put on a barge. And I think in about a week from now, they will show up in the park and they will be released. And I won't even be here. Secondly, more complicated, we are now trying to get another dozen of bison from Europe. And there is, you know, we saw the sanctions, it's now getting much harder, and the person who is providing me the bison is facing one trouble after another. And the last and kind of most complicated expedition to come, now we'll be driving on a relatively small boat from Vladivostok to Taimyr Peninsula, which is 10,000 kilometers on the ocean. And we are taking this small vessel and go and look for herds of muskox, load them in the deck of this boat, and then taking them to the park.
My dream, we need to have in Siberia 100 million big animals. There's enough room for hundreds of millions of animals. But it's next level, it's level not family of scientists which do experiment. It's level of government. Pleistocene Park, I believe, in future will be in Alaska, in Canada, in the west and east of United States. Unfortunately now there is only one park, it's our park.
What was fantastic in this project was that in the beginning you have top minds who are, I would say, intellectual pioneers in the science of reproduction, and they gathered together just because they were captured, by the story of a northern white rhino, and by a chance that we really might be able to save them. Here is a painting of the 5 northern white rhinos. These are the last 5 that were in the world. Here in the front is Nabire. It was the last northern white rhino in Europe. There on the right side from her is Fatu. On the left side from her is Sudan. And then on the far left is Nayan. So at the time of painting, they were still alive. So I actually, first time when I got really close to the story of northern white rhinos, it was still at the time when I went to Alpegeta as a journalist. And to be honest, I a little bit lost like a faith in journalism. I thought for myself that it might be better if I leave journalism and if I join with my hands a bit more, to contribute to saving biodiversity. We are now in an area where our enclosures where Nayan and Fatu used to live when they lived in the Dvukrowe Zoo. And as we know now, the last two to be born here, it means Nain and Fatu, are the last two that are still living now.
2 infertile females, biomaterial from 12 individuals lying in the biobank, and 300 milliliter of semen from 4 different bulls. That is our treasure. That is what we have right now. So we really realized it needs a completely radical change of thinking.
We could not work with the last northern white rhino females because none of them was capable of natural reproduction, or let's say inception. So we knew that we would need surrogate mothers of a southern white rhino. And we assume that the northern white rhino embryo could be inserted and would hatch in a southern white rhino. And in the end, when the rhino will be born, it will be genetically a northern white rhino. If we want to simplify it as much as possible, it's not that much difficult from a human IVF. You basically collect eggs, you fertilize them, you put them into a surrogate mother, and you have a baby in the end.
The first time we went to Kenya was actually after a long time of preparation and a huge learning curve in Europe. Traveling to different zoos and trying to optimize our system of collecting oocytes.
I was around when the first oocyte collection happened in Fatu and Najin. As a ground team, we actually had not done it before, and we were trying to do it in the northern white rhino for the first time.
So when you work with the last of their kind, it's quite a lot of pressure on you that nothing should go wrong. You should not do any harm to the animals.
So we are just about to start. So it means he's a little bit tense. We all are really focused.
So you're conducting a procedure that involves you having the animal under anesthesia for a minimum of 2 hours, and which is a long time for any species to be down.
We had only 2 last females, so 2 possible donors of oocytes. Later we learned that actually even the capacity of oocytes of Nain to produce embryos was too low. So actually our donor was reduced to 1.
For me, it was nevertheless very emotional to see the 2 last of their kind for the first time.
It was just like you would feel, you know, all the heaviness of a rhino on your shoulders.
The ovaries are very deep inside the female organism. So yeah, it's very difficult to get access to them. So I came up with a design together with a colleague of mine to collect oocytes 2 meters inside these gigantic animals. So I came up with an idea how to use an ultrasound scanner to guide the needle into the rectum with a handheld probe. That was quite new, and a lot of people were not really supportive collecting eggs through the rectum. But it worked perfectly, and Fatu has now 17 of these oocyte collections.
With the oocytes of a rhino, you cannot just keep them like you keep a semen. You have to fertilize it and turn into embryo and freeze only embryo. When we collect eggs in Kenya, then we have to get it within 24 hours to a lab in Italy. So you can imagine that it is logistically quite demanding and challenging. We were very lucky that Cesare Gali was open to join us as well.
Avanti has been the first and so far the only laboratory who managed to get embryos produced from the white rhino oocyte in vitro.
He was the one who needed to develop a protocol to make an embryo of a rhino in laboratory conditions. And later, when Cesare Gali was able to manage to produce embryos, that was a huge, huge step forward, because we proved it's possible. It was not proved before, it was still in a theory. So this was turning point. In this moment, we have around 30 of the northern white rhino embryos, and we have to really carefully choose which one we would use for the embryo transfer purposes.
This entire project is a race against time, especially because we're working with a subspecies that only has 2 living individuals, which are not very young.
We want to have a northern white rhino calf on the ground as soon as possible, that we save this social component. Because you can save the genes, but what are the genes without the social transfer of knowledge? Imagine what humans means without this component that parents teach the children what to do, how to be a human. We are still not at the end. There are a lot of sleepless nights in front of us before we really can say we are done. And we would be extremely blessed if this is successful, but we will not stop if it is not successful.
Who picks what species to try to de-extinct is an interesting question. And part of it is, what species are people interested in? So Ben Novak clearly loves passenger pigeons. I mean, the kid was born 80 years after the last passenger pigeon died, but I'm surprised he doesn't have a corpse of a passenger pigeon in his bedroom. Maybe he does.
Here we go. Wow. So this is actually the world's second largest collection of passenger pigeons. You guys are only beat by the Royal Ontario Museum. And what's really incredible about passenger pigeon samples like this, so we've got multiple juvenile birds, some that are just going through their first molt into adulthood, and then the adult females and males. And then this is also the only collection in the world that has a nestling preserved. When I really read about these pigeons, the reason it was so unbelievable is every account talked about billions of birds. And it's hard to imagine. There's really almost nothing like we have that today. This one probably couldn't fly yet. So this was less than 3 weeks old. This one is probably 2 days old or less.
This one, he's becoming an adult male. Basically there we've got the growth going from this to this would have happened in about 6 months.
They were ecosystem engineers because of the way they destroyed forests. In order for passenger pigeons to refill their ecological niche, though, I do think they probably would need to be really large populations.
For a century, scientists thought their closest relative was the North American mourning dove. You know, superficially, they do look a lot alike. But then Beth Shapiro, she published her paper on dodo bird DNA. She also sequenced the first DNA of the passenger pigeon. And in the evolutionary tree, it popped up next to the band-tailed pigeon of the west coast of North America. And these two birds couldn't look more different. This has a scaly green nape with a white band. Its wings are more blunt than streamlined. But on closer inspection, these two birds are practically the same species. It's the behavior that is the key difference between the living band-tail pigeon and the passenger pigeon. We could put band-tail pigeons in the eastern US, and they would eat all of the same foods, and they would live in the same places. There could be 5 billion band-tail pigeons in the eastern US, and they would never form the giant flocks that created the ecological disturbances we need because they don't have the social behavior of passenger pigeons.
I wish I understood them.
And I think it was Ben himself who suggested that I raise them. And I thought, yeah, what could be better? I can't have the passenger pigeon, but I can get their first cousin, of which there are now a number in the back over there in my aviary. And I'm very intimate and I learned a great deal from them. I have 3 acres here, and this is the environment in which the passenger pigeon lived and thrived. It's going to take a lot of boots on the ground, a lot of getting down and getting dirty, because they are pigeons, and there's a reality to that. It's intrinsic to being a pigeon, but we have to deal with it. And I'm more than willing to donate my land and my time and my effort. I love doing it.
When my ancestors came to Ohio in the 1830s, there were about 3 to 5 billion passenger pigeons in North America. Within 80 years of the time they arrived, the last one died in the zoo in Cincinnati, Ohio. We killed them. If we could now make up for that murder by bringing some back, is there an argument that we have an ethical duty to justice to do that? And it's similar to some of the arguments in the human context about reparations, like reparations for slavery or reparations for colonialism. Who owes it to whom, for what, and how much? It's an interesting, tricky argument.
明天的场景啊，其实想了很久了，天天跟过电影似的想，明天是什么样，见着啵啵什么样的。
在道路尽头右转。
明天咱们就看到大哥哥了，是不是啊？我们去新诺谷。
我这对啵啵的感情很难形容，就是。
我觉得呀，其实真的，这是一种延续。
对。
真的就有那种，就是说大奔出去转一圈，丢了，然后呢找不着路了，然后回来了又找回家来了，就只是丢了一段时间而已。
其实我现在想起的画面都是他走的时候那很多画面，全是那个画面。包括你姐抱着他进去的时候，那
是啊，我现在还想这个画面，
绝望了。
对。
我爱人知道我，因为奔奔走了，我的性情大变，有点抑郁，有点焦虑。他特别了解我这个性格，就因为所以说对奔奔回来，对我是种救赎，也是对我们的家庭是种救赎。到现在的话，反正心情还是很亢奋。哎呀，迫切，估计今晚上得失眠。
昨天晚上就已经失眠了。
明天就能见着奔奔了，也特高兴，是吧？
This is the first time I'm come to Xinyi. I've never been here before, but I've stayed in Shanghai for 4 years. So, you know, as a vet, I'm very interested in actually walking through the cloning process in your new facility at Xinyi.
我们最早的这个克隆的实验室是在北京，我们是大概一年多前我们搬到了这里。所以说呢，在整个现在在中国的环境下呢，其实是对于这个还是比较支持的。经过这么几年的发展呢，包括我们每年交付的克隆宠物的数量，我们超过了100只，包括我们每年保存的体细胞的数量，大概有超过了2000个。所以说，基于这些数据的话呢，大家对克隆的接受度也越来越高。
So what is your success rate now with cloning?
一开始的话，我们有可能需要5个代孕妈妈，我们生出一只健康的克隆犬。到现在呢，我们基本上2只的代孕妈妈就能生出一个。
When they try and make a clone, it doesn't always work, right? They have many eggs, and then they implant lots of embryos, and not all of those animals live. So there are misfires. And there's also excess dogs, because it's all about the efficiency. How many eggs do you need? How many surrogates do you need? If it's more efficient, it becomes more feasible.
对，他认识。
哎呦，这啵啵的真漂亮。
哎，没事，你们可以抱，抱抱他。
哎呦，啵啵肉，哎呦，啵啵肉，
哎呀，
哎呦，辛苦了啊！
没事，应该的。你说小哥哥，咱们见面啦。
贝贝，你吻我呢？
对。
做梦似的人。
太开心了，真的都感觉不像是真的。对。
看到时候有点情绪失控了，已经控制不了了，就是激动、幸福，然后画面有时候回到以前，包括他小的时候，然后在最后走的时候，然后感觉像又团聚了，很简单，这种东西就是。
是李医生从新加坡过来的，然后这次也是专门过来看我们这个基地。1年前我们给李医生交付了一只克隆的狗狗，叫思涵。对，您那个狗的品种是什么来着？
是这个
澳洲牧羊犬，也非常帅的一只狗狗。专门远程从新加坡过来看它的那个克隆的宝宝是怎么在哪里诞生的对。
现在的那个，
现在您的那只狗狗健康状态怎么样？
很好啊，1岁多了，
真多了啊，真好。
他认识他，
对，熟悉的，只是他胆子很小，然后没有接触过那么多陌生人。
找妈妈，哎呦。
It was an incredible, touching moment. I mean, what made it even more complete was the fact that they decided to adopt the surrogate mother. I mean, that was fantastic. It blew my mind. It's something that will stay in my mind for a long, long time. When I got Khan, we didn't have that. He was just alone, in quarantine, waiting for someone to come for him. I mean, that was a very lonely moment. I didn't see him till he was in quarantine in Singapore. When I got Khan, he was older. I missed his puppyhood. I missed the excitement, the first hug, the very first lick I got from my dog when he was a puppy. I really missed that. I think that's important. It's just like the delivery of a new baby. You need the presence, you need people around you, you need that whole feeling of family.
It was in November 2023. There were bigger rains than what we are seeing now.
Our routine, we wake up very early in the morning to check the northern white and the surrogate mothers, what they are doing every day.
I actually went to Kenya and I just landed and I got a call from Samuel that 01, that was our first teaser bull, died, and it was really sudden death. He was seen running along the fence, and in 30 minutes, he was dead.
And we came here and we found one lying right here, some meters from where we are standing. lying on his side, dead.